Hi, everybody, and welcome to the people that made Wreaths Across America and thousands of others one happy day after weeks and weeks of work. And you had snow, you had cold weather, and you've done it. Credit to you, Kathleen, and all the people that work with you, that you took this from. I remember being in your house the first time we talked about it and did a show, and it just rolled. It just kept people just kept getting into it and doing it. And I think there were a lot of touching moments. I know when you reached out to cover how many graves and heroes do we have, veterans in Somerset, you touched them all. And that's an amazing feat, because it's not like you're going to the National Arlington Cemetery where they're all lined up and they're all there.
Right.
I mean, or you're going to a city that has, or down the Cape and a Bourne. You had to find each cemetery, each burial ground, no matter what war, no matter what,
Correct.
And just find them and then make that so everybody was into it.
That has been the biggest challenge, doing that. We actually found a grave in Palmer Cemetery from the Spanish-American War.
Wow.
And I would say maybe 85 to 89% of the graves in Palmer are Civil War
Really?
veterans.
Yes.
There's something you learn when you do that.
Yeah.
And
so that's been our focus this year. But to go back, we started last year with an idea that I had back in 2012. And when I saw this picture from Arlington, and I said, ooh, that's cool. I wonder what that's about. I couldn't get any help. I don't know why. It just wasn't the right time, I guess. So then 2 years ago, when my son graduated as a Marine officer in Quantico, I went down and he stayed with me, because the next day was Wreaths Across America Day. And we went to Arlington and we laid the wreaths in Arlington, and I was very inspired, and it was very emotional, to say the least. I still have trouble when we do the ceremony and I have to say certain things. I still get all choked up. It's an emotional day, and there's a lot that leads up to it. But I was able to we put together a committee. George, to say he's been my right-hand man is an understatement. I can't do this alone, and he's been with me all the time, just planning fundraisers and planning events and going and sitting at the table at the bake sale, and just spreading the word is what our goal was for the first year, was spreading the word and getting a wreath for every veteran.
But there was also, of course, you had the financial burden to overcome. You had to match that against what the number of grave sites you had.
Right.
And then you had to make that, and then make it coordinate with the same day in Arlington Cemetery.
Right.
So with all of that going on, it's a little difficult to keep the ball in the air,
Yes, and we work full time.
Right. That's also,
That work gets in the way of a lot of
Work
stuff.
does get in the way.
But just the amount of people that stepped up to help us out from a committee perspective to get this kicked off has been unbelievable. And then the town itself to back us. All the support we've gotten from the selectmen, from the highway department, from the library. It's just been, I mean, I was saying, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was going to say, don't me interrupt. Go ahead.
So, like I said, when we first met, I didn't grow up in Somerset, but I've lived here for almost 30 years now, because my wife was a Somerset resident, and I'm prior military myself. But just to see this town come together the way they've had in the last year and a half, and helping us out by putting this together and honoring our deceased veterans in this town has been, it's second to none.
There was a story that always fascinated me that Eddie Lima used to tell. The story about in the Second World War, whatever the population was of the town of Somerset, but almost 80% of the people in the town of Somerset went to war.
Yeah, I heard that this city was the highest represented per capita out of in the war. It was that's pretty.
And it's like when you look at what you've done and accomplished, you see that when you have there's never a finale, but when you have all of the branches there, and reaching out to the Coast Guard, reaching out to the
the Merchant Marines, the Merchant representation, and we've had a few members. The gentleman that placed the wreath for the prisoner of war, MIA, his father was a MIA prisoner of war during World War II. He was shot down over the English Channel. So Stan Gosselin, his dad, You know, he came and he represented his father and all prisoners of war and placed the wreath for them. So to have that representation and for people to step up and to be honored to do that is just amazing. It's
You know, in conjunction with, basically with what you do, we do a thing called Veterans Corner. And Veterans Corner to us is very close and deep to us, whereas I actually go into nursing homes. And I don't go to a patient's or veteran's bed to, they bring them to the library, and then we leave pictures behind, still pictures behind, so that we hope that every nursing home, every hospital, every facility, and then carries on what you're doing.
Right.
See, so that's kind of like the thing that out there, and some great stories that obviously were difficult for them to tell, and
Some still can't talk about it.
no, I know that there's a fellow that was in the Remagen, the bridge that the Nazis needed to get across. What was it, in Holland or whatever it was? I forget where it was. Anyway, he was the guy, one of the guys who was in charge of the platoon that was guarding Mohagan. Was it Mohagan? I think it was, whatever. And he shot down. He was in, Jesus, I can't think. He was marching along a countryside road, and a Spitfire, not a Spitfire, the German fighter planes.
Okay.
I can't think of the name. Anyway, he flew over them, and they were walking on the road, but he was in charge of a platoon. And then he started to turn back, and he yelled, "Get down! He's coming after us!" You know what I mean? And as he had to turn the plane around to come at him, he was in the middle of the road with a .30 caliber machine gun and the boxes, and the other guys were laying in the ditches. He kept pumping that plane, and it came down.
Yeah.
But it came down whole. This was in a cover of Life magazine. And then he went in, they got the pilot out. I thought I was going to hear a horror story about it. He got the pilot out, and he said, and he get in the plane, said, "Take my picture with the bandana around." That's what he wanted. They took his pictures. So it's funny that I did that with him. I went tried to get him another nursing home to see him again. He was failing. And a young man came to me and he said, "You don't remember me," he said, "but you interviewed my father." And
It means a lot. It means a lot. I have found through this process how much this means to people, that it's touched people in a way that I didn't realize was going to happen. When a woman from North Adams emailed me and said her mother went to Slade Cemetery and there was a wreath on her husband's grave, and she called her daughter and she said, "Someone put a wreath on Dad's grave." And she said, "Well, that was Wreaths Across America." And her mother was so touched by it that this woman in North Adams has started doing it in North Adams. So now she's the coordinator of a cemetery in North Adams because she knew how much it meant to her mother to have a wreath on her.
Well, you saw Kathleen, you know how it spreads. And George, you get into doing it, and you're doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't talk about it, you did it. And it wasn't the easiest thing to do, right?
It hasn't been easy.
Well, you turned out to be easy in your heart, of course. But the thing was about, even with some of the, I always like, and if I can, I always like the bank that says, "Let's keep it local."
Yeah.
Well, how about keeping it local and helping Wreaths Across America?
Right. We'll take donations all year long. We'll take donations. We did raise enough money this year for the wreaths we need for this year, which is around 1,200. So we have enough wreaths for this year, but we can always accept donations all year long, and you can donate through our website, somersetwreaths.org. There's a donate button right on there, and any wreaths donated through our website will come automatically to Somerset and be used for next year, our ceremony for next year.
And talking about how much support we've gotten from the town, that website was developed by our high school.
No
Right.
The
kidding.
high school kids developed that website
That's right.
for
That's
us.
right. I remember doing
So
Right.
it was their project in the class, and they got graded on it, and they did a great job.
They did a great
They did
job.
a great job. And this year,
We've been trying to fulfill the mission of Wreaths Across America, which is remember, honor, and teach. So we remember those who have fallen by placing the wreaths on the graves. That's just one part of it. To honor those who are serving is what we do at the ceremony when we get a representative from every branch of the military to to present a wreath for them, but to teach kids what freedom is and how you got it and what people have sacrificed, people that you don't know that gave their lives for you. I think that's a very important piece of this three-tiered project that we've undertaken. And we do that by reaching out to the different, every level of school we have involved. We have the elementary school kids sing a song. We have Chase Street School did a hat day for us. I don't know, they charged 50 cents for a kid to wear a hat that day, and they gave that money to us for the wreath. So they're teaching the kids that there's a good cause that they're supporting. The middle school has students singing at the ceremony. The high school has the band. They play taps. They did the website. This year, the web class is going to be adding the cemeteries to the website. We didn't have time to do that last year, so we'll be doing that. One of the members of our committee, his name is Art LePage. He has gone to, he's done one complete and a third done, where he has photographed every single gravestone. He has researched every single burial, found the obituaries.
That was a job.
Oh man, we have found about 50 veterans who were not marked as veterans through him researching the obituaries. I brought a little sample of what he's been doing for us. He marks every single grave and he marks the veterans with a flag, so it'll be easier for us to go in December to find them, because like you said in the beginning, this is not a veteran cemetery. We have to go and look at the stones and research them and verify that they are in fact veterans.
The history and the education part is so key in the teaching part because it's been ignored.
Right.
It hasn't been done.
Right.
And if you go and start screaming about it to anybody, they give you what the contract which is, and that's BS because this is part of history.
Well, yeah, I mean, just
this is history.
When you talk about the teaching and learning, I myself, and I know Kathy, just going out there and doing this, I've learned a lot. Yeah. You just walk by and you drive by cemeteries every day, going to work or whatever you're doing, and you pass by them. Yeah. But the fact that we've walked through these cemeteries for the last 2 years, identifying our veterans, it's just humbling. And to see, Spanish-American War, Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Persian Gulf, all these individuals that sacrificed their time and their lives to keep us free so we can sit here and honor these veterans every day, whether alive or not.
I was a soldier in Germany. I was Korean War, but I was lucky I didn't go to Korea. And I was a great reader of about different people, mostly Germans, the enemy, and there was a hero to the German people who was Erwin Rommel. Erwin Rommel was a desert fox, called in the book, called by us, the desert fox, who worked out of the tanks in the desert and so on and so forth. He wasn't a Nazi. He was high, like the military part of it, that just wasn't Nazi. I ended up meeting his son in Berlin. I first of all was a soldier in that area, and then I never met anybody from there. But then I went back with the Senate, and they were exchange students with German children and American children. And so I went back there, and at that time it was the former mayor of Berlin, Willy Brandt, Manfred Rommel, his son. And I got friendly with him. I went to his home. I had muffins with him and his wife, and I remember sitting in his house with another kid, with a lawyer with me. An explosion took place. And Jesus, I jumped out of the thing, and he says, Tom, don't worry about it, he said. It's only the landmines the Russian plant down the street.
Oh, gee.
I said, did they plant anywhere here? And he took me, and he'd write to me, and I would have interpreted, guys, young ladies who could speak German would interpret the letters. And one of them was, stop writing to me in English. He spoke English. He was a school teacher. He spoke English, and he just stopped writing to me, learn how to speak German. And a little over a year ago, I got a note from his wife. He had died, and he was an amazing man. He was the Lord Burgomaster of all of part of Germany.
Wow.
He took me to a meeting once with the earphone. I was a senator then, and he took me to the earphone, and the conversation was translated to me, and all of the Stasi and all the others that were in that room in the German police. He said, "My friend," he asked me if we had won the war, would we have rebuilt America? And I said no, because that's where you think, and that's not how I think. And I never forget that. It was such a time,
Yeah.
such a time. But it's too bad that the people who serve the other people couldn't make peace rather than
Right,
war.
right.
I mean, because it takes so many lives
Yep.
from all sides. Well, you have another stunning year, Kathleen.
We're gearing up for our ceremony for this year, and I don't know if you can see these coins. Maybe later you can zoom in on these coins. These are challenge coins that we have that we give to the presenters of the wreaths that are really kind of special. And this year we have new people coming. We have the Honor Guard, the new Somerset Police Department Honor Guard
Yep.
will be participating, and we got a message that the Providence Marine Honor Guard is also going to be
Good.
participating this year, so that's going to be very exciting. So the ceremony, this will be our second annual ceremony, and then what happens after that is I'm going to retire because I can.
Yeah. You've
Because
been
I
doing
can.
the daycare stuff.
Yeah, I've been running my daycare for 31 years, so I'm going to be retiring and probably moving to a warmer climate where I have some property. And because I will probably not be here in the winter, George Andes, former U.S. Air Force, is going to be taking over as the location coordinator for Somerset. That's
Thank
my
you.
friend George.
Anything we can do, we will do it.
I
George.
appreciate that.
And what he really needs is for people in the community who will be willing to join our committee and come to, we have like one meeting a month.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of planning that goes on that people don't see that we can't do alone. If you say like, well, we're having a bake sale at the election. Well, it doesn't just happen like that. You have to call people to get them to bake, to get them to work at the table, and you have to print the forms for the people to volunteer on. So there's a lot that we need help with. So what we really, really need, last year we were very lucky. We had almost 300 people come to the ceremony and lay the wreaths. It was wonderful. And I'm hopeful that we will have that response again this year. I don't see why we wouldn't. But what we really, really need is a handful of dedicated people who will work with George to keep this going. We don't want this to be a one and done. We don't want that. We want this to continue, and we seem to have the support of so many people. We definitely have the support of the town and the town departments, the town officials. We have support from a lot of local businesses. I would like to see more support from businesses with,
Well, naturally.
donations.
One of the biggest supporting agency in this town for us has been the VFW Post 8500 on County Street. Dave Aubrey and Don
Truver.
they have been Kathy and I's right-hand people.
Oh, yeah.
They have provided us so much support that we can't thank them enough. But like Kathy says, the key here is, the fundraising, it's tough. It's a lot of work. People have been very generous, both in town and businesses and other out-of-town businesses have been very supportive. But the key is the volunteer, the committee members, to help us continue making this a success that it has been. Because, I'm understanding everybody works 8 to 5 Monday through Friday and they want their weekends with the family. But, like Kathy said, once a month, we have our meetings, we identify what our next step is.
Yep.
If we're having a fun bake sale, we're having a car wash, we're having a spaghetti dinner. This is where we're looking to pull together come up with some ideas, get the people to volunteer to help us out, not only to do it, but set it up, tear it down. We were overwhelmed with the amount of people that attended the ceremony last year. We were figuring maybe 50 to 100 people would show up, but we had
cold.
and it was cold, and it was
It was
cold.
cold.
But we probably had over 200 people at the ceremony itself,
Yeah.
and then afterwards, when we split up into the 4 cemeteries to do it, you know, between Slade and St. Patrick's and Palmer and Gibbs, people just came out of the woodwork and helped us out.
Yeah, it's
You know,
amazing.
It was awesome.
Then you were, then of course, I think there was a delivery to the wrong place to the thing, so you had too many wreaths in one place and not enough in the other place. But that goes.
Well, it's a learning experience. It's a learning experience,
Of
and
course,
you got to
of
learn the
course.
logistics and get that down. And every year it'll be more and more.
Always need bodies.
Yes. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
We need
Yeah.
volunteers.
Volunteers are the key.
Volunteers.
Volunteers
Yeah.
are the key.
And the more you do the more you encourage them and use their own. Like if it's a kid who's in school, who's popular, that he or she draws people.
Right.
You know, and that's each, and you kind of place them, like, you know.
It's not a huge commitment of time if you have enough people.
Right.
Oh yeah.
If you have enough
If
people.
you don't have enough people, it is a real commitment.
Right. Like I said, we've done it with 1 meeting a month,
Yep.
which, you know, the meetings last an hour.
Yeah. I don't think
You
we've gone
know,
over an hour.
no, we haven't.
Where do you
had
have the meeting?
At the VFW.
the
Oh, yeah.
VFW.
Yep.
They let us use the hall for every event we have. They let us
Oh,
use
that's
it for
great.
our meetings. They don't charge us for the hall. They are so supportive. We're having a bake sale. Oh, Dave, can we use a table? No, here, no problem. No questions
Yeah.
asked. They've been very, very supportive.
So I would like to thank you for your time and your effort. You're a gem, kid.
Thank you.
And you pulled it off.
It's been my
and
honor.
I'd like to wish George the best of luck.
Thank you.
And you, if to outscore her, you got a lot of work to do.
Good thing I have big feet, because I wouldn't fit in her shoes. So
Anyway, I could wish you the best of luck
thank you, Tom.
for
Appreciate it.
everything you do. And Kathleen, we should never
Thank you.
forget you.
No,
Okay?
how could you?
I know. How could we? Is right.